Hi, I'm Rick Dior, and I'm the professor of percussion at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. And that was the NCBA concert snare drum audition, the part one, which is a classical snare drum solo. So this solo has lots of dynamics. It's not too difficult. The most important thing is that it's at a fast tempo, so you need to be able to navigate some of these grace notes and rolls at this tempo. Before we talk about the solo, we'll talk about some of the equipment. I definitely suggest using an orchestra snare drum for this, so not a drum set snare drum. So this is a drum called a Clevelander snare. It's a brass drum. You don't have to use a brass drum. You could use a wood drum. But what I would suggest is using a 5 or a 5.5 by 14-inch snare drum. Nothing too deep, because there's a lot of subtle dynamics. And the next part of the solo, which we'll do in the next video, a rudimental solo, definitely a shallower snare drum will sound cleaner and tighter. The sticks I'm using are sticks that I make. These are black Wenge reverse tips. We'll show you the tip there. And I like to use a stick with an elongated bead. It helps with the rolls. Several rolls in this one, several long rolls actually. And the sticks weigh about 72 grams. That's a good weight for this solo. In the next solo that I'll do in the next video, the rudimental version, I like to use a heavier stick. So we'll take this solo line by line and talk about all the complexities. The first thing you need to know is that the dynamic range in this solo is pretty large. So you want to set your thresholds or opposite walls. So in other words, we have a pianissimo 2 Ps, which is the softest dynamic here, and that should sound like this. And then we have a forte, which is the loudest dynamic in the solo, and that should sound like this. And then we have an accented forte, and that's even louder, and that should sound like this. A little subtle difference there. So you need to set those parameters and stay within them, and everything in between needs to be relative. And normally, the player that plays with a lot of dynamics will traditionally do well in these types of auditions, or any audition. Always use lots of dynamics. So we start out with this long roll. Probably the hardest part of the solo is right in the beginning, playing pianissimo to forte and back down. And one thing you'll notice when I play it is that I get faster as I get louder. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you see there, as I'm getting louder, I'm moving from the edge to right off center. You don't want to play right in the center. That's good for rudimental stuff. But for this, not so good. It's the driest part of the drum. So stay right off center. I'll give you an example. Here's the center, and here's off center. So it's subtle, but it's a little bit more ringy, a little bit softer sounding. So when you start that roll right away, you're thinking, or I'm thinking, I'm going to do 16th notes under it, so like this. And as I get faster, I'm going to move to triplets as I get louder to create energy for that crescendo. And then back down to 16ths. It's a tricky little concept, but that works best for these kinds of rolls. So I'll play this first line for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. So right away, up and down, you see these hairpin crescendos and decrescendos. You want to make the most out of those, okay? And then we go into 3/4. Keep this tempo solid. I'm using a metronome today, and I'm playing it at tempo at 132, and metronomes on quarter notes. The time never changes. The meter changes, though. So now we're in 3/4, and we're sort of doing this discussion of loud to soft, loud to soft. 1, 2, 3. So you hear that. And you also notice that the third bar, I'm doing these 8th notes with one hand. That assures me of being even there, and every sound is the same, even though I'm getting soft to loud. You know, if you alternate, the sound may be a little bit different. Now, these drags can be played open or closed. I'll play them open for you now. 1, 2, 3. probably play them closed at first. If a conductor asked me for something different, I'd play them open as in a rudimental style. So it's your choice, but closed for me sounds better here. And then we're at the third line. Now this is very rhythmic, and it's kind of a theme that comes back in the fifth line. 1, 2, 3. All right, not too hard, just keep it driving and make sure the accents are maybe, a little under a mezzo forte. And then we're at B, and we have this discussion again, loud, soft, loud, soft. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll notice there again at the end I use 4/8 notes with the same hand. So those are the loudest, accents in the piece, an accented forte. So those can come out. And you can play them very close to the center. All right? And then those flams right away should be played dry and tight. Not this, but like this. Just a slight thickening of the note. Make sure you don't rush the triplet. And then we're back to this theme here at the fifth line. 1, 2, 3. And then finally we have this forte piano roll on the last line. So the way you want to do this is do a nice hit and a buzz with one hand, okay? And when you start that roll, you're going to do this. So the right hand or the left hand, whichever you want to start with, is going to do this and buzz, and then the left hand right away, or whatever hand you're not starting with, will take over, and then you're going to go towards the edge quickly. 3, 4. Okay, so that's what you want. And then you're to the end of the solo, basically. So I'll play that last line for you here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And a crescendo until the end. So the next solo that we'll do in the next video for this, for the grades 9 and 10, will be a rudimental solo as well as a triangle part. It's a little complicated, and the rudimental solo is actually a lot more difficult than this. So make sure you check the channel for that, and good luck on your audition.